Okay, welcome. We are going to make empire pudding tonight. I'm going to pull up the list of ingredients on my phone. The things that I do know about baking include a pretty standard order of operations, which I will be following. And the first step is always to cream the fat and the sugar. So in this particular recipe, the fat is beef sweat. This was $15 on Amazon. It is grass-fed, finest quality food grade, but it can also be used to make candles, hand soap, or for skincare. So we're gonna put this in first. If I'm halving the recipe, it calls for beef sweat, 1 pound. So I'm gonna put, oh, gross. I'm gonna put half of this whole thing in there. This is exactly a pound of beef sweat. Oh my God. Mmm. Delish. It actually looks kind of like Crisco. My friend often will take spoonfuls of Crisco and dip them in like crystallized sugar, and eat it, which is gross. But that is very normal where I grew up. My mom's favorite dish to make at Thanksgiving is a Jell-O dish, which includes lime Jell-O, canned pineapple, and mayonnaise, all combined and chilled before being served. All right, so that's our tallow. Now the sugar, it calls for something called, what kind of sugar? Calls for a special kind of sugar, but I'm just going to use regular cane sugar, processed sugar. Wait a sec.
Is this supposed to taste good?
Wait a second. I don't think it calls for, I'm going to share this one more time. Hold on. I don't think it calls for sugar. I'm definitely not eating this. Does anybody see sugar on there? Okay. No, it does not. Okay, so I have nothing to cream the fat with. So we're just gonna go ahead and stick some eggs in there. Right? Does anybody know? There's definitely no sugar. Okay.
Wait, is this supposed to like taste bad? Like
It's like, okay, so it is a fruitcake. Empire pudding is a fruitcake, which is notoriously gross. It's not a delicious thing to eat. So it's, I guess this is going to be, I don't know. I've got some lovely currants to sweeten it up, I guess. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add 2 eggs.
It says there's rum from cane sugar.
Rum from cane sugar, yeah.
But not
I
sugar
don't
itself.
have rum. I do have brandy from a couple summers ago, so I'm going to just replace the rum with that. The other slop I'm making is the breadcrumbs. I don't have plain breadcrumbs, so I'm going to be using Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, which seems very logical to me. It's going to be fine. So we're going to add 2 eggs, which I actually do know how to crack with one hand. That is the one thing that will set me apart in this video from other amateur bakers, even though there's no sugar in this recipe. So I guess that is not really, I'm not really baking. I don't know even what I would consider this. Somebody tell Chris Morocco. So I guess I'm just gonna cream the fat and the eggs. Yum. All right, so that's the initial process we've got. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that. It sounds delicious. Yum. Okay. So I'm going to keep working on this while I prepare my fruit. What I see on the Great British Bake Off is that generally for fruit cakes, the fruits are soaked in the, oops, sorry. I forgot about my participants. Okay, so what I see on the Great British Baking Show is that a lot of times they will add their liquors to their dry fruit, because if you watch Gourmet Makes on YouTube and follow Claire Seafitz, you would know that alcohol adds hydration without adding moisture. So it can hydrate these fruits, but then it's not going to make the dough and the bread ultimately soggy. So it calls for a lot of different dried fruits. I'll let you know what they taste like, since many of them may be new to you. Sultana raisins, calls for a pound of sultana raisins. So if this is a pound of beef tallow, I'm just gonna do it this way. I had a scale, but I lost it in my last move. So, okay, I'm gonna say it's about a cup. Feels like a cup of raisins is about a pound or a half pound. But sultana raisins are like soaked in oil or something before they're dried. These are regular raisins because there's a pandemic. So this is what we've got. Let's see. Okay. So we've got our regular raisins. I have some golden raisins left over from something I made earlier this year. The sultana raisins are sourced from Australia, and the seedless raisins, that's our golden raisins, are from South Africa. So in case you did not take AP World with me, this empire pudding recipe, this Christmas pudding recipe, is very well known around the world, at least in the former empire, because the idea of it was published in a lot of magazines, and it incorporated ingredients from all throughout the British Empire. So that's why you see ingredients sourced from Australia, South Africa, Canada, the UK, and it just sort of promoted the purchase, consumption of empire goods and the use of empire goods. So I'll try to remember to tell you where they're all from. So far, our sugar from the Caribbean. Actually, there hasn't been sugar yet, so just kidding. The eggs apparently come from the Irish Free State. The beef suet comes from New Zealand. The raisins I just put in come from Australia and South Africa, and now we have some currants, dried currants from Africa as well. The only, I really don't want to try these, but I'm going to. They smell kind of like a chocolate lab that hasn't been neutered. That is really the only thing I can think of. Actually, they're pretty good. They're not bad. They smell a lot worse than they taste. They taste like raisins. They taste like very small raisins. Like honestly, I don't taste a difference at all between that currant I just put in my mouth and this raisin. So sorry, I wish that were a little more exciting, but whatever, they needed to get something else from Australia in there, I guess. So we're gonna add our half pound currants as well. There's candied orange peel in this recipe.
Hi, Anthony.
Who's that?
Boyu.
Oh, hey, Boyu.
Hi.
Okay. All right. All right, now this is candied orange peel. The orange peel included in the original Christmas pudding recipe was sourced from South Africa as well. I've never had candied orange peel before, but it sounds good. I like marmalade. Oh my God. That is so much worse than I was expecting. It's extremely pithy. It's very pithy. It's like all pith. I don't know where the oils went. This is gonna be so delicious. So far, really, it's been mixing well. Okay, I would not recommend candied orange peel if anybody was considering that. I should probably chop them. Oh my. It's honestly like it fills your entire upper respiratory system with this really intense. I mean, I've had like orange pith before, but I guess I had tempered my expectations. This is just really not good. But it calls for a half pound of these as well. So I'll just chop them up and stick them in with the rest of my fruit. Okay. The minced apple, because it's not a dried fruit, I'm gonna add that separately. And just take the dried fruits and peels and soak them in the alcohol. Okay, and that is very standard for fruitcakes. Okay, oop, that's not it. All right, so so this recipe, and I'll show it to you one more time so you can see. We had some people join a little later. Okay. So this recipe calls for brandy, rum from cane sugar, rum sourced from Jamaica, and brandy from Cyprus, as well as a pint of old beer sourced from England. Now, the beer, although it is alcoholic, that's not the type of alcohol you would use to soak dried fruits. If anybody has ever made beer bread before, usually you combine your dry ingredients and then pour it in slowly as you whisk. But because we're gonna have wet ingredients already, I'm thinking I'm gonna add it a little bit of flour, then a little bit of the beer. And the thing that makes it different, like milk, for instance, you would just add with your wet ingredients, like without question. But because it's carbonated, you have to be careful with the way that you add it. And that is all that I know about that, but I guess we'll see. Okay, so I guess that just means we've got a few tablespoons of brandy going in with the fruit. Okay. I hope it doesn't have an expiration. I can't really go to the emergency room this week, so we'll see. Maybe I can give it to a neighbor. Just a little stir to combine here. And the currants especially, like the currants are all tiny and shriveled up. So they'll get a little plump through this process, through this soak. And I'll show you a little, oh, you couldn't see that at all. So through this, you see that there's almost no residual like liquid at the bottom. The fruit's just absorbing it right away. And you really don't add that much, just enough for the fruit to soak. So this will be added at the end once the batter is made, sort of like you would add chocolate chips to a cookie. And I know I sound very confident when I'm saying all of these things, but I really don't know. I am sort of making this up as I go, but like based on other things I've made, I'm assuming that that's how this is gonna work. Okay, all right, I feel like my eggs definitely should have been room temperature because what we've got here is a very clumpy texture. This beef sweat is really just not wanting to combine with the eggs. So I'm just going to move on. It's gonna be okay. The nice thing about having sugar in there is that it gives you a little something, you know, crunchy, a different texture to help you combine the fruit a little, or combine the fat with the eggs a little better, but you know, whatever, it's gonna be okay. So the next thing, I'm gonna start adding some of my dry ingredients to the wet mixture. First is 8 ounces of flour. Alexa, how many cups is 4 ounces of flour?
4 ounces of flour is about 0.91 cups of flour.
Okay, so about a cup of flour.
Oh my God, Miss Deneen, you just made my Alexa turn on.
Oh, I know, I'm sorry. So they've been doing this, Jimmy Fallon, if you haven't been watching his like night show on YouTube, it's fantastic, but he taught me a game that I actually did play with my friends and it was pretty fun, where you ask that computer a question and try to get it to say a word, like sort of like Taboo, only you're asking the robot questions to get it to say the word that you drew. And while he was playing with Tina Fey, my robot was going crazy. So I'm sorry that I activated yours. This seems like a really small amount of flour for the amount of beef sweat we have in here, but I guess that's how fruitcake works. Okay, for those just tuning in, here's what we have so far. a delicious mixture of what is essentially lard, aka a $15 case of beef suet I purchased on Amazon, some eggs and flour, but no sugar, because I don't know, I guess the British were self-hating people. Well, I'm also making it for my own consumption, which is really ill-advised, but here we are. Okay. Oh man. The most exciting part, oh wow, look at that though. That doesn't look too bad. All right, this is really getting somewhere. That the flour just dissolved that beef sweat. I feel like I really have a lot more fruit than batter, which maybe is the idea. But we also have some breadcrumbs that are going to go into this mixture. So, okay, where are the breadcrumbs? I don't have plain breadcrumbs. I have some lovely Italian seasoned breadcrumbs, but I'm sure it'll be fine. What does it have? Oh, that is an absurd amount of ingredients for breadcrumbs. But the seasoning, it looks like it includes salt, dehydrated parsley flakes, onion powder, garlic powder. I'm sure it's going to be fine. So here we go. It calls for a pound of breadcrumbs, which in this entire thing, 24 ounces, 16 ounces in a pound, right? Oh no, this whole, what? Oh, 1 pound and 8 ounces. Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm just gonna literally have to add all the rest of what I have of this lovely Italian seasoned mixture. Mmm. Yum. Ooh, it's very fragrant. Mmm. Okay. Oh, okay. So now our batter is becoming a little more voluminous with the addition of those breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs were sourced from the United Kingdom, and the original recipe published throughout the empire in the 1930s. This was first published in the 1930s. I definitely have to switch from my whisk because it's become too thick. Really, I was only supposed to use that for my wet ingredients. So that was a mistake, but that's okay. Even adults make mistakes. Everybody does. Okay. Great, great. This is looking delicious. Although this is an English recipe and it is not really a country praised for its cuisine. So I don't really know what I was expecting. Okay. All right, so now what we've got is a really dense dough that's starting to pull away from the sides of the bowl, which is interesting. Seems, the beer. Oh, shoot. I said I was going to add the flour and the breadcrumbs and the beer intermittently. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, it calls for a pint of beer, and I don't really know how much that is. So I'm just gonna add a can that I got from a neighbor. Many of these ingredients were sourced from neighbors, actually. I have a cool story about the apple I'm going to incorporate at the end. So this is very wrong. This is exactly what you do not want to do, because now I just have a very thick lump of dough sitting in the middle of carbonated liquid, and I'm going to knock all of that carbonation out of it probably as I combine the ingredients. So that's okay. It's okay. Oh, dang. And I was so confident. Like when I was talking about, I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally gonna add the flour and the beer intermittently, and it's gonna be great, and everything will combine nicely. And it's different because it's a carbonated beverage. I was impressed with how knowledgeable I sounded. And now this is what I'm working with right now. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. To be this wasteful during a pandemic too, what, oh my gosh. I'll try to eat some of it. Oh my God, it smells. There's a very strong smell of the garlic powder that was in those seasoned breadcrumbs. Okay, well, this mixture is not going to combine for me. I can say with a lot of confidence. So I'm just going to add the fruit, and I'm going to see if that helps in any way. Oh man, and I added it cold. So because there's so much beef sweat in here, it's starting to take on sort of like a cottage cheese texture because all of that fat is congealing. You always want to work with room temperature ingredients, which I have not. In my defense, I had a Zoom call just prior to this, so I was not able to get my ingredients to room temperature ahead of time. But that is an excuse. So we will push on, we will move on. Okay, so my fruit has been soaking, probably long enough. Looks nice, it smells strong, it smells very strong. Okay, so let's see if having these chunks of fruit in the batter help me combine it a little bit better. Oh my gosh. I really thought this was gonna go better than it's going. But that's okay. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that. Sounds delicious. Very sloshy. Ooh, my gracious. Okay. Well, it smells horrible and it looks horrible. But you know, I've got an apple to put in there and a really cool gadget to use to prepare the apple. So here's just a check-in on our ingredients list that I'm working with. So basically, thus far, we have added our Sultana raisins from Australia, our currants from Australia, our seedless raisins, aka golden raisins from South Africa. Our minced apple is about to go in. We've added our breadcrumbs from the UK, although these 4C breadcrumbs are sourced from Brooklyn. Wow, oh man, that makes me really excited to support local businesses. Although I did buy those breadcrumbs probably 3 years ago. I threw out mustard that expired in 2016 today. That went with me to 4, maybe 5 different apartments. So that is a new low, but that's okay. I apologize to my grandmother for making fun of her for all the expired food she has in her fridge. Much of what is going into this mixture is expired. Oh, right, I forgot I was still sharing my screen. We added our beef sweat from New Zealand, our candied orange peel from South Africa, our flour from the UK, 4 eggs from the Irish Free State. I did half this recipe. I'm gonna add the seasoning at the end. Now, one thing I learned from Bon Appetit magazine is that you wanna add your most expensive ingredients at the end in case you mess up, and seasoning is something that can go in at any point. So I'm just gonna add that at the very end because I am running very low on nutmeg, so I didn't want to waste any of that. The pudding spice, that's very similar to like pumpkin pie spice that maybe you guys have used at the holidays, but I ran out of that as well. So I'm gonna make my own pumpkin pie spice. It's usually just a combination of ginger, cloves, cinnamon, so I'll do my own. We added the brandy, and I used brandy instead of rum, and the beer from England as well. So far, the only thing we have left to add is the seasoning and the apple. So, really cool gadget for the apple. I'm gonna go ahead and set the dough aside. It probably hasn't been worked long enough. And I chose not to use my stand mixer because I thought it would be more authentic that way. You know, I have this tool, which is called an apple peeler core slicer. Okay. I'm gonna wash my apple first. This apple, we have a GroupMe for my building that I live in. And I posted in the GroupMe a couple days ago saying, does anybody have an apple? I can trade you a clementine. And there were several messages after that with friend codes for something called Animal Crossing. And they were like, oh yeah, I'll be on at 4 o'clock. Like I'll open my gates and I'll give you an apple. And I'm like, or you could like leave it outside my door, which would also be cool. And at some point, probably 20 minutes in, I realized that they were talking about a video game and not a real life apple. But long story short, I got an apple and I did not have to trade for it, which is cool. But this is called an apple peeler corer slicer. And as you twist, oh, I feel like I didn't set this up correctly. Hold on. How do I do this again? Oh no. Something's got to pull out. Oh, that's it. I think it might already be pulled out. Hold on. Oh, there it is. This is what you do. Okay. So the apple goes here. Okay. And you twist it toward the blade. And as you do that, okay, there we go. This is a very soft apple. Oh no. Oh dear, I've completely lost hold on. Oh, gracious. Okay, but it is a really cool gadget when you have apples in season. And then just go ahead and do it down here. At this point, who cares if there's seeds in it? Okay, try again. But it takes the core out, and it peels it, and it slices it, all at the same time. Yeah, no, sorry, it's too soft. Well, that was a huge letdown. I'll post footage later today of it actually working with firmer apples. Okay, well, I got some of it peeled at least. Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm definitely not peeling it at this point. This is also not the appropriate way to position your fingers when you're cutting produce. I haven't yet mastered that, but you're supposed to like, you know, put your knuckles toward it. But I can't really get a good grip on it that way, so I'm just going to be very careful. Okay. And, oh, well, technically it called for 1 minced apple, but this is a very soft apple, so I don't really want to put the whole thing in there. Okay. I'm seeing there's something in the chat. Oh, okay. Wait, Miss Deneen, apples are the last fruit I need in Animal Crossing. What is Animal Crossing? What is going on with this? I was so frustrated. I was just like, first off, how is this, like, why would I say, how are there clementines? First of all, clementines don't seem like a fruit that would be in a virtual game. And also, nobody had virtual apples except for this one, which is really horrible. I can't even like identify it. And I'm from upstate New York, so I'm pretty passionate about apples. Like, it's so soft. Literally, I can smush it with my finger. That's disgusting. Okay, but I am appreciative of my neighbor who shared what she had with me. So that was nice. Oh, also at some point earlier, I should have preheated my oven, which I will do now. I'm just gonna say 350, because that is standard. Oh, okay, it started. Oh gosh, it really smells very strongly of garlic. I feel like it was a really bad idea to use the seasoned breadcrumbs in place of the plain breadcrumbs. But again, it's a pandemic, so we use what we have. Okay, so this has come together better. You can definitely still see that the beef's wet. I'll give you a little close-up of this delicious mix. The beef's wet, the fat is still congealed and still very pebbly, its texture. Okay. Okay. So I just have to season this, but oh, what's that? What'd someone say? Oh. So I just have to season it, but my computer's running a little low on battery. So I'm gonna share my screen and let you take a look at some of the Civil War era concoctions I may make tonight. So you can pick which of those you would like to see. So let me just get that around. I wasn't talking to you, Siri. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share this screen with you so you can take a look at some of the recipes from Civil War era in the South in particular. See if there's any of these that you would be interested in seeing. And I'll plug my computer in. Okay. Okay, I think you should still be able to see me here, so I'll leave it up for a couple more minutes for you to peruse while I add the seasoning. So I've got some, now keep in mind there's already oregano and garlic and onion powder in there, but I'm gonna go ahead and add some cinnamon, which in the original recipe is sourced from Ceylon, which is actually the only place in the world where it occurred originally. Let me just double check and make sure that I am correct in saying that. Yep, and then cloves, which I don't actually have, so I'm gonna substitute ginger, which is an ingredient in pumpkin pie spice and that pudding spice from India. So I'm gonna add a little bit of ginger. And then nutmeg. Now nutmeg is really strong usually. I purchased nutmeg for 99 cents many years ago. So this is not going to be very strong. So I'll just go ahead and add some of that. Now, if you watch Alton Brown or Bon Appetit on YouTube, or I don't know, anyone who actually cares about food, you know that they are pretty passionate about not having the plastic containers of spices. They like to have tin containers. A lot of times you see like magnetic strips that can go on the inside of cabinets to store all of your spices. And it's best to grind them yourself. Same with coffee, because as soon as you break the seed or break the bean, it starts to lose its flavor. But my spice budget is 99 cents per spice. So I'll leave that to others. Okay, great. So we've got an interesting looking mixture. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share and go ahead and put this in a tin for baking. So, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and use a glass baking tray. I don't really have specific reasoning for doing that. It's just a lot easier to clean in the dishwasher. So that's why I made that choice. A lot of times your cooking temperature will vary based on the pan that you use. So for instance, if you're using a darker nonstick sheet or tray, you're gonna wanna drop the temperature a little bit, like to 325 instead of 350. But I'm gonna use this and leave it at 350. I've also never baked with breadcrumbs before in place of flour, so that will be kind of interesting to see how this turns out. I'm not, this Zoom will not still be going by the time it bakes, so I will post on Instagram the outcome. And I'll include me trying it in the YouTube video that goes up tomorrow. So yeah, I'll definitely, though, before we sign off, I'll show you where it's at. My guess for how long this is going to take is probably somewhere in the ballpark of 40 to 50 minutes. But I don't know, I've gone wrong many times so far tonight, so usually it's easy to see when something's done, though. Do it until done. And everybody's oven temperatures are so different. Honestly, I think every recipe should just say, bake it until it's done. Like, give us a ballpark and that's it. Even cookies that come packaged or cake mixes. I have a gas range here, so my oven's usually a lot hotter than the ones that the recipe is designed for. But there we go. That is a beautiful, dense, fragrant fruit cake. And that is a lot of carbs. You can see it stays in the pan because of its density, which is really exciting. Yeah, it's looking good. That's looking good. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this in the oven. Oh shoot. Oh man, I made actually good bread the other day and my bread pan is still in there because I'll just admit that I store a lot of my pans in the stove. You're not meant to do that. I don't personally recommend it. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do though? This gives me an opportunity to add a cool feature here. Is a lot of times when you don't want the edges of your bake to burn, what you can do is add water to a tray in the base of your oven. So I'll just show you. In my oven, I have a tray down at the bottom, which really at this point is specifically for that purpose because I've really destroyed it with some of my vegetable roasting endeavors. Woo! Woo! Okay. All right, generally you want to do it before your pan gets that hot, but it was just an idea that came to me. Oh, nice. I had a piece of tin foil that was stuck on there and it just came off. Awesome. Okay. Fantastic. So I'm going to put this in with the water in the bottom of the oven. It's going to steam it up and make sure that the bake is a little more even. You may have done it before with cheesecake, but you also do it with breads that you want crusty on the outside. Here's one I just made yesterday. So to get that crust on the outside, you do a water bath in the bottom. Okay. Empire pudding is coming out of the oven. All right. Okay, as promised. Yum. Oh my gosh, it looks so great. All right, it sort of has lost that garlic and onion aroma. It smells a little bit more like raisins and currants, which is great. The currants at the top seem to have shriveled despite being, no, they look okay. All right, so we're gonna give it a taste. We're gonna try. Usually you should wait like 10 minutes, but I'm not going to enjoy it regardless, so. Honestly, I think if I had used plain breadcrumbs instead of Italian seasoned, I don't think it would be horrible. I'm getting a lot of that orange peel, the candied orange peel that's very pippy, which I don't love. But overall a success. All right, you can see the adventure of baking it on YouTube tomorrow. There it is, Empire pudding. Thanks for all those who tuned in. It's really not good, but that is exactly what I was expecting. Yeah, this is Empire pudding. It's the Christmas pudding with like the ingredients that come from all over. That was a spring break programming tonight. I just didn't want to make everyone wait an hour for it to bake, especially because of how horrible it is. Honestly, though, to their credit, it wouldn't be as bad if there weren't so much garlic and oregano in it from my Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. But, all right, I'll put it up tomorrow.